Hello from a hotel in Devon. Wanted to jump on and give a few thoughts to a mock draft that I saw earlier today, which had Hendon Hooker going fifth overall to the Seahawks. Mike Tannenbaum of ESPN, former NFL GM, put the mock draft out there, and it's created a bit of a stir on in terms of Mike Tannenbaum's been on every ESPN program talking about it. It's all over Twitter. People are discussing it. Other draft pundits are discussing it. Everyone's trying to work out whether there's something in this. I've now started seeing things like the Colts are interested. Legit Colts reporters are saying, the Colts are interested in Hendon Hooker and stuff like that. So, what's really going on here? What's really going on is we are in that really boring period between free agency finishing and the sort of the real draft stuff ramping up. So when you get to, week to go into the draft, some of the big reporters will start doing their mock drafts, like Peter King will do a mock draft and Albert Breer will start doing the rounds and trying to find out what he's got. And it becomes really interesting again, and people there's like a bajillion mock drafts out there. Some of the mock drafts start to pick up on a few things and it becomes interesting again. But right now, the NFL world needs some stories. It needs some drama. It needs people to go out there and create a talking point. And this is just creating a talking point. I am not a reporter for the NFL and the NFL draft. I am not somebody who goes around throwing out quotes from scouts and stuff like that. But, I have an opportunity to I've had an opportunity over the years to sort of get to know some people in the game who are working in the game right now. And every now and again, they'll just give me their opinion on things. And one of the opinions that I have heard over the last few weeks is that Hendon Hooker could go in round one, could easily go in round one. There's a feeling within the league that there's a legit possibility of that. Now, fifth overall, no. We're talking about sort of back end of round one, possibly somebody trading back into the first round because of the benefit of the fifth year option. And that's really what is the motivator here. Because he's not going to feature much, if at all, as a rookie because he's recovering from an ACL injury, having the fifth year option becomes even more important with Hendon Hooker because, you miss out on the whole benefit of the first year. Then you get 3 cheap years, and then you've got the fifth year option before, if it all works out, you'd be paying him a big contract. So there's if you are a team that's picking in the 30s, let's say, at the top of round 2, and you wanted to get the benefit of the fifth year option for the cost of like a 4th round pick or something, you might be able to sort of squeeze into the Chiefs pick at 31 or something like that, or maybe in the late 20s to go and get your guy. And that's the expectation. Otherwise, if there's no deal to be made there, let's say the teams in that range want to stick and pick or don't want to trade down or they're asking for too much, then the feeling is that Hendon Hooker will go at some point in round 2. That's the talk. And there is a bit of buzz there, about Hendon Hooker. There's a lot of excitement, and it's not just something new because if you look at the way that Jim Nagy was talking around the Senior Bowl, he said that they don't typically invite injured players to the Senior Bowl, but they made an exception for Hendon Hooker. They found him a really impressive person. They felt like he deserved that opportunity to sort of go and be around teams and go and meet them, and they wanted to give him that chance. And they did. And, round about then, we should have been paying attention to why is Jim doing that? Why are they doing this? Clearly because the league wants that. They want the opportunity to speak to Hendon Hooker. He's not going to be able to do the big workouts. And I think people are intrigued by him, and rightly so, because when you actually watch the tape, he has a lot of things that teams are going to be interested in. The other side of that is the offense that he played in at Tennessee is wide open. If you watch a Hendon Hooker, after you've watched this video, go and search for Hendon Hooker highlights 2022. And what you'll find is in the commentary, turn the volume up, listen to the commentary, count how many times in that video you hear the commentator go, wide open, as the throw is falling into the hands of the receiver. There are so many wide open throws. The Josh Heupel scheme is fantastic at scheming people open. It's very difficult to combat. He doesn't have to do a great deal. He gets his reads from the sideline. He was often throwing to wide open receivers. He's never throwing into tight windows. And when he did face some pressure and when he did have to throw into tight windows, that's generally where there were a fair few mistakes. His deep ball accuracy is not amazing. So that's sort of like the negative side of it. And that's why I've been kind of hesitant to sort of pump him up in a way that some other people have. But then there are moments and flashes on tape, like the performance against Alabama where he went toe-to-toe with Bryce Young, incredibly impressive. Teams are going to take notice of that. Alabama gave everything. Tennessee gave everything back. Hendon Hooker won that game. The LSU game, it's a really good win. He had a couple of throws that were fantastically accurate, deep downfield, into coverage that were superb. It's one of his better games. And when you sort of see stuff like that, he's decently sized, he's a good athlete, he's got big 10-inch hands, he's got a great character, people like him, he's very competitive, you sort of see that on tape, there's a bit of a spark to him. It's very, very easy to see why teams will really like Hendon Hooker, and they clearly do. And that's why he could go at the end of the first round. But 5th overall, there's just, it's ridiculous. It's creating a talking point. It's creating a few headlines. It's setting the agenda. And it did, it set the agenda on top of the latest batch of what's happening with Aaron Rodgers and what's happening with Lamar Jackson and stuff like that. That set the agenda for the day. Could Hendon Hooker go this early? No. And there's no reason for the Seahawks to take him at number 5. Like, for the Seahawks to draft Hendon Hooker, here's what I think would need to happen. So it'd probably require, because I think, this Carroll has been talking to Steve Weish for the NFL Network, and he's been pretty open and honest about it. Like, they think there's 4 great quarterbacks. They've gone and checked them out. They're doing the due diligence. They think this is like, a rare opportunity. When are they going to be picking this high again with 4 great quarterbacks? That's basically just what Carroll was saying, and they want to do the homework. And I genuinely think they do like these 4 quarterbacks. And I think they'll take one if Will Anderson is gone. Now, I think if Will Anderson is there at number 5, I think they'll take him. For that to happen, it will mean somebody trading to number 3 with Arizona, taking a quarterback. Then it would require the Colts taking a quarterback. And then it would take Will Anderson being there at 5. I think that's a stretch. I don't think it's going to happen. But if it did, you take Will Anderson at 5, and then maybe the Seahawks consider Hendon Hooker, whether that's at 20, whether it's at 38, whether they trade back up into the end of the first round. If they were that desperate to have him, then there you go. And just as we've talked about setting up a red shirt for Anthony Richardson, they've equally set up a red shirt for Hendon Hooker, who probably can't play in 2023 because of injury anyway. It's ideal for him to sort of come in and sit and spend a year on the sidelines and then compete in a year's time. So if they really like Hendon Hooker, that's an option. If they really want to take a quarterback, that's an option. I mean, in that scenario, if it happened, I'm not a massive Hendon Hooker person. I think he's fine. I'd take him in round 3. I might consider it at 53 if I'm a team and I was really impressed. If I got to meet him and speak with him and I was blown away, then maybe I'd consider it. That's something that I'm never going to be able to do. If they took Will Anderson, then Hendon Hooker, I'd personally think, okay, if you're going to not get one of the top quarterbacks, then just build up the rest of your roster. Get Will Anderson, go and get your center, go and get a nose tackle, go and get better defensive lineman. If there's a Mayer there, go and take a tight end. If there's a good receiver you like, go and take a good receiver, etc., etc. That's what I would prefer to do, rather than like, we've got to get a quarterback at this point. I think that's kind of forcing it a little bit, and I think you will be forcing it if you go and take Hendon Hooker in the late 1st or the 2nd. But I also wouldn't criticise the Seahawks for doing that. In the same way that I wasn't a big fan of the Charles Cross pick a year ago, I wasn't going to hammer the team for taking a left tackle in the top 10. They viewed Cross in a way that I didn't. And I wasn't alone. Daniel Jeremiah had him like as the 18th best player in the draft. And, I kind of had a high 2nd round grade on him. They took him in the top 10. They clearly liked him. I'm not going to hammer the team for drafting a premium position in the top 10. In the same way that I'm not going to hammer the team for taking a quarterback in the late 1st or the early 2nd round. It's just not personally what I would want to do. But that's kind of the scenario where I see Hendon Hooker in Seattle. Not at number 5. Not over a Will Levis type, not over an Anthony Richardson type. To me, that's just, I don't think that's very realistic at all. But it's like I say, it's just something that's got people talking. I'm doing a video about it. Everybody else is talking about it. Could Hendon Hooker be a top 5 pick? I mean, come on. I guess there's a chance that if there are teams in there who really like him, they might take him a lot earlier than maybe a lot of people are expecting. And that could be one of the surprises, because there aren't a lot of blue chip players, and that 5th-year option is important. Like, could Tampa Bay take him, for example? That seems somewhat realistic. That feels like a fit, to chuck him into the mix for next year. That would work. And, Detroit at 18, for example, or trading back into the end of the first round, that makes some sense as well, to have some competition for Jared Goff. I just don't, the Seahawks are number 5. It's not happening. It's not happening. And what I do think is going to happen, I've been very consistent about it, I think the Seahawks know that they're picking 5th overall, and there are 4 quarterbacks, Will Anderson, and they are guaranteed to have one of them. And I think they're very comfortable with that. And that's where I think Seattle's pick's going to come from at number 5. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments section. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, check out SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more. Until next time, bye for now.